Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Investing Unscripted, where we ask and answer the hard questions about investing. I'm Jason Hall. He's Jeff Santoro. He is my friend. He's part of my community of investors. Some people call him the voice of the people. Everybody else calls him Jeff Santoro. Hey, buddy.
That was a long wind up to something that is not consequential, which is introducing me, but I appreciate you, friend.
Yeah. You're consequential.
Not like that. I mean, that was a good 15, 20 seconds of introduction.
Yeah. You know what? You're special. You matter.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
The voice of the people. All right. Time for another episode. And this is going to be a little different than some of our other episodes because there's part of it that is going to be promoting something that we're doing, but it's something that we believe pretty strongly in and is really, we think it's kind of core of the reason people listen to our podcast. I'm just going to hand it off to you because I'm going to ramble here. I think it'd be better to come from you.
It's always better if it comes from me.
Fair.
Look, so we've been doing the podcast for going on 3 years now. This summer will be 3 years. And we have talked off and on about finding ways to expand and change and add to what we offer, but also realizing that the more time we spend on this, the better we try to make it, the more it takes time away from other things we do in life. So we've always kicked around the idea of finding ways to add things that actually make us a little bit of money to help justify/support the podcast. And one of the things we've decided on is happening today. So we have an announcement here at the beginning of the episode. As of today, we are launching on Patreon. If you're not familiar with this website, it's a place where creators can go to post their creations and in some instances make money off of them. So not much is going to change, Jason, for our average listener, but I want to quickly go through this. And then we're going to spend time talking about why we made this decision. And then we're going to talk about why, in the larger sense, we decided to do this. So first of all, nothing's going to change if you don't want it to. Anyone who's interested in just getting our podcast for free and our newsletter for free, that's not going to change. So if you're interested, head on over to patreon.com/investingpod and you can follow the show for free. Just click the join button and you're in for free. And nothing's going to be there that you can't get anywhere else. It's just going to have links to our podcast. You can listen to it in the Patreon app should you choose to.
But
and eventually,
you don't have to. It's
still
going to be everywhere else.
Correct.
It's not going to change. Yeah.
And eventually, the newsletter is going to move to Patreon, but not right away because it's going to take some time for us to get that word out to everyone.
Right.
I don't believe we have a way, Jason, to just port our email list into Patreon. So people are going to have to subscribe to the Patreon in order to get the newsletter. The newsletter will be free.
Might, but I think the point is we don't want to just start throwing things at people that have subscribed to the newsletter that it might feel like spam.
Right.
So we're still working through our process there. I'll say this, the easy thing to do is if you subscribe to the newsletter now, and you would just prefer to get it on Patreon, because one thing we have started to do, Jeff, is by the time you hear this, there's already going to be a bunch of content already on Patreon. We've already plugged the RSS from our podcast stream to it.
Yep.
So past episodes are already there. Everything that we've already put out there is there. We've also started putting the newsletter on it as we produce it to Beehive. We're at the same time, we're co-releasing it on Patreon. So it'll be there. So one of the reasons we like this, and you're going to talk more about it, is the fact that, like you said, everything that people get other places, they'll still be able to get it there. But we're also going to set it up so that everything's also going to be in one place.
Right. Yeah. Part of this decision was to get more stuff in one place. If you go to patreon.com and just join our community there, you'll just be on our mailing list and get it through Patreon and Beehive because you'll get it both places. And then eventually, I mean, we're talking months down the road, Jason, we will probably end the Beehive email letter and just use Patreon, but we want to give people plenty of time to sign up. If you want to get it through there, you don't have to go to the app to read it. It'll still come to your email like it does now. So it should not feel like there's a lot of friction to make this change. So if that's all you might need to do as a regular old listener, and if you don't want to do any of that, nothing will change for you. Now, here's what is going to be different. Within Patreon, after joining for free, you have the option to join a paid tier, which is $5 a month. And we've given it the very creative name, Starter Position. And If you join the starter position tier.
Before you go any further, Jeff,
Yeah.
I want to commend you because you are terrible at naming most things.
Yes. Yep. I did think of that. So I hope people like it. I thought it was clever.
You came up with it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's
All
good.
right, great.
It's good.
Yeah. And here's what you get for that $5 a month tier. You get access to a Discord, which we have set up and is just launching today. You'll have exclusive access to that. Only the paid members will have access to the Discord. And in Discord, you can communicate with other members and Jason and I. It's basically a forum, an online forum app that we'll be using to interact with members. And we're going to talk way more about that in a minute. The other thing you'll get with the $5 a month starter position tier is all future Rough Cut episodes will be behind that paywall, and we will be doing one at least once a month. We're going to record the first one and launch it today along with this announcement, and I think it's a fun one, so check that out.
So to be clear, all of our previous Rough Cuts that have been released in the public domain, they're going to remain there. We're not putting those behind the paywall, but going forward, and it's been months since we've done one, so there's incentive here for us to do those now since it's something people will be receiving as part of something they pay a little bit of money for.
Yep. And that's it. That's what it is for right now. So it's go to Patreon, join for free, go to Patreon and join the $5 tier if you want to get access to the community and get future Rough Cuts. And that's basically nothing else will change unless you decide to do those things. So for everyone else who just wants to listen on Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Spotify, you're still going to get the weekly Wednesday episode drop. You're still going to get the first Friday's live streams on YouTube once a month. You're still going to get Misfit Monthly with Tyler. You're still going to get the Stocks Unscripted episodes when we do them. You're still going to get the newsletter. Our YouTube page is not changing. And the portfolio contests that we do with listeners, that's going to remain out on the free side of everything. It's really just this small thing we're trying to get a community built around in Discord, and to put the Rough Cuts behind that $5 a month paywall. And then lastly, this is not tied to Patreon, but we just want to mention, because it's something we're trying to put a little bit more promotion into. We're still doing our Savvy Trader portfolio on savvytrader.com. Now that is a separate subscription. It's more expensive. We get that may not be for most people, but we've been doing it for a little over a year now. We are still beating the market. It's a fun place where we're putting a little bit more of a effort as if we were actually managing someone's money behind our stock picks. We're putting videos up that explain our thinking. There's a community feature in there too that people can take advantage of. That's separate from Patreon. It's something we've been doing. You've probably heard us mention it before, but I just wanted to mention it one more time.
Yeah, we're kind of relaunching it. So we've been doing it it's a little over a year now, and it's done well, and it's beating the market. And I think so far the results are probably relatively in line with what we expected, but we've done zero to promote it. So there's an ad in this episode with a discount code, and that there's a link to that's in the description of the show. So if you want to check it out, we're offering a 25% discount off of a full year membership, which actually works out versus the month-to-month membership. It's less than half price versus just doing the month-to-month. So this is the first time we've done a discount on it, partly because we're idiots about marketing and we didn't even know we could. So we wanted to put that out there, and we'd love some feedback on it too. We'd like for more people to get involved in that.
The last thing I'll say about it, because we don't promote it, we've not mentioned this in a while either. If you read the description on our Savvy Trader portfolio, we did say that there is in addition to just making fun stock picks and trying to beat the market, we are also donating to charity. So on April 26th of each year, which is the 1 year, that's the anniversary when we launched the portfolio, we donate 10% of all of our subscription revenue to a charity. And after 3 years, we will donate 50% to a charity if we're losing to the S&P 500. And we're going to donate 90% of our subscription revenue if we are losing money. So we are putting our subscription money where our mouth is, and really trying to beat the market.
At Investing Unscripted, we ask and answer the hard questions about investing. Our Savvy Trader portfolio is an extension of that mission, and it's our attempt to show that frameworks, patience, and a bottom-up focus on quality stocks can beat the market. A year into our journey, we are doing exactly that. Not only are most of our stock picks making money, but our returns are almost 51% better than the S&P 500 so far. We want you to join us. For the month of May, we're offering 25% off an annual subscription. That's a savings of almost $75 and gets you full access to our portfolio, trade history, videos and commentary on each stock we have bought, and a preview of our next stock buy before we buy it. That discount code works out to less than half price compared to a monthly membership, but it's only good for a limited time. Click the link to the show description to get 25% off the annual subscription, or go to savvytrader.com/investing unscripted. Use the discount code unscriptedmay. That's savvytrader.com/investing unscripted. Discount code unscriptedmay.
Hey everybody, we'll be right back, but first a word from our sponsors. FinChat.io is the complete stock research platform for fundamental investors. They have all the standard financial data on more than 100,000 stocks globally. But beyond that, they have company-specific segment and KPI data on around 1,800 stocks. So for example, do you want to see NVIDIA's data center revenue growth? They've got it. Do you like to track Apple's iPhone sales? They've got that too. Or how about nights and experiences booked for Airbnb? You guessed it, they've got it. And they just added around 8,000 ETFs and mutual funds to the platform. The breadth of FinChat's data is truly one of a kind. I use FinChat every single day as I'm researching the stocks in my portfolio, specifically when I want to see how they're doing on KPIs that FinChat is famous for. So to get 15% off any paid plan, go to finchat.io/unscripted. That's finchat.io/unscripted to get 15% off any paid plan today. The link will be in the show notes.
Investing Unscripted is brought to you by the Chit Chat Stocks Podcast. My name is Ryan.
And my name is Brent.
And we're the hosts of the show.
On Chit Chat Stocks, we are constantly researching new stocks from high flyers to undiscovered small caps, diving deep into business models, debating competitive advantages, dissecting valuations, and we have a fun time while doing it.
Supercharge your investing research and start listening to the podcast today. You can follow the Chit Chat Stocks Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Follow the show so you never miss an episode. That is the Chit Chat Stocks Podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to just one more thing about the monetization that I just think it's an important thing to know. Obviously, we have a podcast and we do this, and the idea partly is to make money, at least enough money to cover our operating expenses, generate a little bit of additional income. We've actually gotten to the point now where we bring in enough revenue can help us do things like go to Berkshire and make great content there and not have to be writing personal checks for all of those costs. And that's kind of a cool position to be in. But the reality is we need incentives and motivation to put in our time too. And we had thought about doing some free Discords and things like that. But the reality is that we're hoping that there's enough interest from enough people that it's going to take more time. And well, time is money. So that's one of the reasons that we are putting a cost. The other thing too is we want it to be relatively exclusive. We don't want to get to overrun and deal with spam and that sort of thing. And if there's a cost, people are going to value it, even though it's a small cost. So we hope it's something that people see the value in. $60 a year is not a ton of money, but hopefully it's something that helps keep it a little bit more exclusive. And it's enough money for Jeff and I to pull time away from other things that we could be doing. So let's pivot though. Here we are, we're more than 10 minutes in, and it's a lot of a sales pitch here. I know a lot of people have heard, but there's some important reasons why we wanted to do this. We've talked about it. And that's what we're going to really spend this episode talking about is the idea of an investment tribe, having a community. And hat tip to Wayne Cunningham, listener, longtime listener, someone we actually were able to meet in person at Berkshire that really was a catalyst for us really committing to make a decision to move forward with this now and stopping kicking the can down the curb. So Wayne, if this is a failure, your fault, pal.
Yep, totally Wayne's fault. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just remember that, everybody. Blame Wayne.
That could be our hashtag if this all goes down in flames.
Hashtag blame Wayne. Wow. Love it. Love it. All right. Let's talk about the whole point of this. And the reason why a lot of people listen to our podcast, the idea of building a community.
Yeah. And so here's where I want to start. And this is where, when I started to think through, this is actually for me, Jason, I think I've always been the one who's a little bit more hesitant to try to monetize the pod than you, probably because you spent more time thinking about businesses than I have.
Right.
And,
I mean, I was also in outside sales for 15 years.
Right. So you've been trying to sell me on this for a couple of years, and it finally worked after almost 3 years, which just goes to show you why you're not currently still in sales.
Right. There you go.
There you go.
But
There you
here's
go.
the bottom line. So when I first got interested in investing in stocks during the pandemic, I was legitimately obsessed and wanted to talk to anyone who would listen to the words coming out of my mouth about this because I was so obsessed and excited about it. And it took every ounce of self-control to not just drone on about this more than I even did. In fact, I look back at myself then, and I even now I cringe at how much I wanted to talk about it. And it's sort of why I eventually ended up reaching out to you, Jason, on Twitter. Is just you seemed approachable and like you would engage with a rando. And we
That's one of my character flaws.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It worked out for me, but you should probably just rein that in a bit. And then, DMs turned into like, hey, here's my number. And then it turned into texts and we became friends. And then we started a podcast and here we are. And that does not happen to everyone.
We started a podcast, then we became friends. You always get that backwards.
Yes, you chose to start a podcast with someone you were not friends with. But the bottom line is I was lucky, right? It was the right time. I was in the right place. I found the right person and was able to slowly build a community that I can now go to. And it's not just you, Jason. It's a bunch of people that I've connected with through our relationship and through everything we've done with the podcast to kick ideas around with and talk about stocks with. And so I no longer have to harass my wife and kids about stocks and watch their eyes glaze over and as they walk out of the room. And, our conversation with Wayne in Omaha kind of solidified that I think for both of us that, we hope when Wayne was talking to us about how he basically was like, I'm so glad to meet you guys. I have no one to talk about stocks with. Like he said out loud the thing that I've been thinking back when I started. And it was hard.
And if I had $1 for every conversation over the past 10 or 15 years I've had with other individual investors, I'd have hundreds of dollars. I mean, Wayne was not unique. You're not unique. I mean, you're both unique, but you're not special. Or is it the other way around? You're special, but you're not unique.
That feeling is not unique, but we are unique snowflakes, each of us.
There you go.
Thank you.
But seriously, and again, my guess is that the majority of the people listening, this resonates with, right? It's one of the reasons we listen to investing and personal finance podcasts is because you get a chance to connect with people about something that you're passionate about, that the people in your everyday life have no interest in whatsoever, right?
Yeah. And it was heartening to hear that because that's what we've always wanted this podcast to be.
Yeah.
And granted, a podcast is to a large degree a one-way communication device, right? Like, yes, we have people who reach out to us and we communicate back with them, but it's mostly us staring at a computer screen and talking and then other people listening to it. But that was always what we wanted this to feel like. Even though you don't know us personally and aren't in the room with us, we wanted it to feel like you do know us. And so that was for me, Jason, I think the thing that got me over the hump with thinking about starting the Discord and building that into the Patreon. Now, I know some people might be thinking, oh, great, you want to start a community and have people to go talk to, but you want to charge $5 a month for it. So I want to say two things about that, because that's what I would be thinking, because I'm a cynic. So two things. We will still interact with you, Jason and I, even if you don't join the Patreon. Like, we're not going to like ghost people who reach out to us.
It's not going to change what we do on social media or anything like that.
But we just wanted it to be a curated experience for those who do join. Like you said, if it's open to everyone, then you get people in there who are trying to sell stuff, and we'll obviously have community rules to prevent that. But we wanted it to be, I don't want to use the word exclusive. That sounds snotty, but something that's more than just a completely open public forum, because you can get that anywhere. Like, that already exists on Twitter to some degree, if you want to have it.
Well, I mean, it sucks on Twitter.
True, but it exists.
Right. No, you know what really exists on Twitter lately? Somebody posting something, you replying, and then 35 spam bots telling you about these great traders that you should follow.
Yeah, so many great traders recently.
I've followed a lot of them, and they're not great traders. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my personal take on this, Jason, like relating it back to how you and I met and trying to replicate some level of community building that I was able to get out of that relationship with our listeners, some people who've been listening to the podcast since episode 1.
I want to talk about my history and story a little bit and your history and story a little bit too, because I think there's a seed of value to that as investors, right? I mean, we've done plenty of shilling and we've made the pitch for the idea of our Patreon community with the Discord. But I want to talk about my experience as an investor and how community has been so critical to my success. You've talked a little bit about that with your own success, but I think we can build on that a little bit too. I think as a starting point, as humans, just as the human animal, investing is a very solo venture, largely, right? You're investing your own capital. You're doing the research. You're making the decision to hit that buy or sell button, right? We talked about how it's a niche pursuit. It's not something that more than a few percentage of the population have any interest in actively pursuing. But we're social creatures, which makes it a challenge for something like this, because we also, as part of how we've evolved as social creatures, especially like we thrive in small groups, right? That's where humans really, you think about our friendships, right? People have generally a handful of close friends. You go out a tier and you have a broader group of friends that you know well, and you can go out another ring or maybe two to include people that you know that you trust. And then once you get beyond a few hundred, then people start turning into outsiders to a certain extent, right? It's just, again, it's how we're wired. And psychologically, we know that they're not necessarily, they're just like us, but that's how we've evolved. So when I first joined the Motley Fool as a member, the first place that I found success was getting on the message boards. This is well before Twitter, very early in Facebook's growth. And the message boards were full of weirdos just exactly like me. It was very engaged. Just about every stock that was recommended at any of the Motley Fool services had a pretty active following of people that were engaged on the message boards multiple times a week and sharing press releases or talking about competitors, like all of those things. So one of the things that did for me, I'm a very extroverted person. So having that as a place to go interact with people, just from a psychological perspective, the social perspective, was incredibly important for me. But the thing that was happening that honestly I didn't realize was happening, I was learning a lot. I was learning all of the things that generally you learn from experience and mistakes. If you're lucky, right, you learn the right lesson from making mistakes. If you're super lucky, you have successes that you can identify the things about those successes that were good, but most of us can't. We can't, right? We don't know what good looks like. We don't know what bad looks like until somebody helps us understand. So being exposed to a community of very good investors, and then a moderated community too, where it's not just randos that you don't know who they are. These are all people that are paying for a membership, and you've got the analysts that are a part of that community, right? So there was that. That's kind of gone to what still exists, but it's not anywhere near as engaged as it used to be. Social media happened, Twitter, other places. I think everybody here knows what's happened with Twitter just having really lost its shine, and none of the other. We've seen Blue Sky, we've seen Threads. None of them have really emerged with staying power, with like the same level of engagement that we saw.
I pause you for just 1 second though.
Yeah.
Because even in its heyday, one of the things that I didn't like about Twitter is there's still if you're a newer investor and you're not confident in what you know and don't know, it's daunting to put a thought out there.
Oh yeah.
That literally anyone in the world who's on Twitter can respond to. Like when I was brand new to investing, I was throwing some ideas out there that are right now, if I go back and look, probably pretty terrible. And
they were.
Thank you. And luckily no one, tore me up on the internet, but that's the fear you have, right? I'm going to say something and everyone's going to be like, oh, listen to this idiot. He completely misunderstood this concept. And, we're hoping to build a community where that's not going to be the case. All right, go ahead.
I'm glad you said that, because another thing about it too, and that honestly, that probably, like being behind that moderated paywall that was more exclusive, as much as that term is going to have some negative connotations, in this sort of thing is also massively beneficial for more than what you were just talking about, because the other part of it too is with social, and we've done episodes about this too, like when we've talked about incentives and things like that. The incentive for so many of the FinTwits influencers out there, their incentives are about monetizing whatever it is they're pushing, right? Whatever pays their bills. And in a lot of cases, those incentives are very disaligned from the success of the people that are paying them money. So that's one of the things that's dangerous about social media, is when there's no guardrails, whatever your natural inclinations are, whatever those flavors are, there's going to be somebody out there selling something that's going to sound great to you, even if it's not, right?
Yeah.
And
I think,
luckily, I was in a place where I was able to engage with a lot of people that were fundamentally focused investors, great analysts, like all of the things lined up. And then you know what happened? I started meeting some of those people in the real world down the road, meeting people like Jason Moser and David Gardner 15 years ago in person, sitting down, having like long conversations with them. I love to name drop Morgan Housel. First time I ever rode in an Uber was with Morgan and Simon Erickson, riding back from an event. And Morgan always makes a point to remind anybody that's listening that it was an expense that he was reimbursed for, so he didn't really pay for my ride. But the point is, I got a chance to get really exposed to some incredibly high quality people, and that has made all of the difference. I was very impressionable at that point, and it has made all the difference in my investing success, because that was pretty early in my tenure, and it ties to something that has become my absolute favorite investing advice. We just did an episode last week talking about when great investing advice is terrible. But this is one thing that I think is always great investing advice. This is great life advice. And it's something that Warren Buffett has been saying more and more of. And it's surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, right? And the impact,
which is why you hang out with me.
100%. That's exactly right. I mean, you're a better mediocre investor than I am. I'm a better good investor than you are.
I don't even know what you said.
It's easy. It's deep. It's got layers.
Like onions and ogres?
There you go.
Okay, this is off the rails.
And parfaits. So, but no, again, and I think maybe there's a little bit of a goal for me with what we're trying to do, to maybe capture a little bit of lightning in a bottle and build something here for, this next generation of individual investors that are looking for that place to connect.
Well, and I'm glad you talked about incentives, because I think I mentioned this earlier, I'll say it again. I've always been a little more hesitant to do this because I don't like being sold stuff, like just personally. And I think what's important to just mention, since you mentioned incentives, is like our incentives here are to cover our expenses. Do you know what I mean? Like, This is not our primary source of income. We are not trying to build a media empire that takes over the world. We are gainfully employed in other areas. And I think that's the difference between what you see sometimes out on social media when people are trying to sell stuff. They're trying to make a living getting you to subscribe to their newsletter or to take their online course or whatever it is. And I'm not throwing shade at that. That's fine. That's what they've decided to do. But I do think it's fine.
And there's some great stuff out there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Stuff that we both pay for in some cases. I just wanted to make clear that, like you said earlier, it's basically, we'd like to cover our operating expenses and have a little bit extra cash to like go in person to meet people. Like that's our goal. And maybe some beer money, Beer money
too.
Yeah. That sounds nice.
Hat tip to Tim Hansen, beer money. Jeff, let's talk about you. You mentioned how you and I got to meet, but I'd like to hear from you a little bit about how you went from like zero to somebody that started to really figure things out, and the influence of like the people that you've connected with.
Honestly, as it pertains to investing, the macro example of this is just having the podcast. Like if you go back and listen to episodes near the beginning of when we started in the summer of 2022, and if you listen all the way to now, you're going to hear basically my entire evolution as an investor talked about out loud.
Yeah.
And in that case, a lot of what I was saying, I was really only getting feedback from you, right? You were on the other side of the screen, but listeners reached out, friends of ours who are also listeners who we've become close with and have text threads and things like that would listen to an episode and then reach out and say, hey, don't forget about this, or you got to watch out for that, or don't. So I was able to build my community simultaneously through the podcast and also through becoming a contractor with the Motley Fool around this a little bit earlier than when we started the pod. So I had like kind of simultaneous communities that I was able to tap into. And, you know, you mentioned being able to meet people in real life, being able to meet the community I've built in real life in various instances has been even greater than building it online, because then you become friends, not just with the advice, but friends with the people giving it.
Yeah.
So I think that was the big thing for me, was just, you know, having the podcast, being able to talk out loud about the things. But it certainly was the community aspect of the podcast that absolutely, it was more that than anything else for me in terms of investing that made me a better investor. Now, like I could point to reading 10Ks and reading 10Qs and listening to conference calls and the books I've read as contributing. But the reason I did all those things is because people in my community said, read this book. You should read 10Ks. Check out the proxy statement. You should listen to earnings calls. Here are the things to listen for. And so really, it's like all of the work I did to improve was mostly because someone else said, this is a way you improve. And if I think back to the very, very beginning, I didn't know where to get information. I was just finding like things in my brokerage app, like what does P/E mean?
Right.
And I would just Google it and then find an article
Right.
and read it. Or actually when I switched to Fidelity, in the Fidelity app, they have like a research learning center. And every night when I would lay in bed reading before I went to sleep, I would go through like lesson 1, you know, and I would just read the little articles on the Fidelity website like every night. And I just worked my way through. It was like a little mini course. And then I would just Google like best books for investing, you know. So I read like The Intelligent Investor like first, which everyone says you shouldn't do because it's so dense. And then I found my way to like the Peter
That's like
Lynch
reading
books.
the Silmarillion before you read The Hobbit.
Yeah, it never struck me as being like, I read it, like I didn't turn me off. I wasn't like,
It's
this
not
is boring
complicated
and
or
stupid.
complex. It's just dense.
Yeah. I don't know. But again, when I hear people say that's not the book you should start with, I believe that. Like I might have had but I was so voraciously into it, it wouldn't have mattered. You could have given me the dictionary of investing and I would have read it. But I'm also like an educated adult. I think if you had handed me that book when I was like 22, like if I was 22 and I got into investing and someone's like, read The Intelligent Investor, I would have been like, I'm out.
Done.
Forget this. So anyway, yeah, for me, like when I look back on it, it really was just the community aspect that kind of pointed me in the direction to learn all the things I've learned.
Probably the most important thing that I don't know. Eventually I learn it, I guess, but I don't know if I learn it as quickly as I did, is how powerful confirmation bias is. And it's like the inverse of what we should be doing as investors, because you can always find a reason why your investing idea is going to work. There's hundreds of reasons, right, for every bull thesis. All it takes is one or two things that you refuse to acknowledge or don't consider that might go bad, that tears a hole in the hull, right? So learning the concept of focusing on trying to disprove your thesis and engaging with people that either have the countervailing point of view or simply are really, really good at taking the other side of the argument to make you think about things in a different way is exceptionally valuable. And that's one of the hardest things to do if you're doing this on your own, right? And that's one of the things that Buffett has talked about that was so valuable for him about having a Charlie Munger in his investing decision process, is a person that thinks about things differently than you do, or a group of people that think about things differently than you do, to help you avoid risk, which is what's left over after you've thought of everything you can think of.
And that exact aspect of having a community is the hardest thing to do, I think, in like public places.
Yeah.
You know, if you go on the internet and say, I love this stock, it's the best, tell me why I'm wrong, you're not going to get like well-reasoned, nuanced responses. You're going to get snarky internet responses.
No, nobody goes on the internet to get their mind changed.
Yeah. Yes. But I'll also say this, you know, one of the things that I think we've talked about this, but not recently, that you and I think without fail do to each other, and it's mostly because it's fun, but it does serve a purpose, is if either of us brings a stock idea to the other one, all we do is crap all over it.
We go after it. We absolutely go after it.
I'll say,
that's
hey,
the expectation.
Right. I'll say, hey, I'm really bullish about this company, and you'll just tear me apart about it. And, you know, it is funny, and just it's part of
I don't tear you apart.
No.
That's not true.
No. Wait,
I
stop.
do tear you apart.
You do tear me apart, but the goal is to tear the stock.
But also
thing
tear apart
yeah.
the idea.
Right. But, you know, it doesn't have to be just that. Like, I'll give a great example. So I for a very long time was excited about and bullish about Boston Omaha. And part of that was it's one of the first stocks I really kind of had to study, because when I became a ticker guide on the Motley Fool discussion board, which is basically I get assigned a stock and it's my job to kind of follow it and understand it and keep conversation going about it. Like, I think the very first one I was assigned was Boston Omaha. So I had that bias of like, I've spent so much time thinking and reading about this company. And for a while I had pretty high conviction in the company. Things were going well. And I remember we were talking with Tyler about it, and he just said something that like devastated me. He basically said, all the evidence points to the fact that these two co-CEOs are absolutely terrible capital allocators. And I was like, you're wrong. I like blew him off. I gave all these reasons why. And then here we are. And I look back and I'm like, he was absolutely right. With the exception of
the worst thing in the world with Tyler, because he's already insufferable.
So
and if he's insufferable and then obviously right after the fact,
oh, it's the worst.
It's
I hope
like Super Mario Brothers with the mushrooms, right?
I hope he skips this episode, because I know he's going to text me and gloat.
He won't, because he's looking for you to say something about Outset so he can give you crap about that one.
I still think I'm right about Outset, by the way, and just to kind of veer off for a second here, and the Q1 results got me even more excited. So
yeah, Jeff needs a win, people. Jeff needs a win.
So if you're hearing this and you'd like to tell me I'm wrong about Outset, please go to patreon.com/investingpod and sign up for the community.
Well, and when you get over in the Discord, folks, if you do sign up for the paid tier and you join the Discord community, one of the channels that we're going to set up is the check your ego at the door channel. As we're recording this, we haven't officially decided the names of all of them, but
so that might not actually exist.
Well, there's going to be one that's basically the idea is it's a room that once you go in that room, expect whatever idea you're bringing to be challenged. You're going there specifically for what we're talking about, because I think it's so critically important to have a place like that you can count on people helping you. And again, the bottom line too, there's a good chance that I'm going to engage with people in that forum on stocks that I love, but I'm still going to do everything I can to tear it down to the frame, right? Because I think we have an obligation as investors in our community to do exactly that. So Jeff, I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up. This will be one of our shorter episodes that we've done in a while. But just to recap everything again, I think we made it pretty clear that where we stand on the idea of community, and everybody listening to this, if you're a regular listener, you've already committed to making us, 1 or 2 hours every week as a part of your process and your time and your investing life. And that's kind of an honor for us to already play that role in your life. And we hope that we can build on that with the Patreon and the Discord for those of you that use it. So please check it out. Give us feedback. It's one of the great things too, is that you can help give us feedback to make sure we continue producing content that's valuable and relevant to you. And also we can continue to grow that community. The last thing too, just want to remind everybody, check out the Savvy Trader. We think we're doing some great things there and some lessons for people that, want to continue to improve directly when it comes to picking stocks and building a portfolio, we don't do a lot of that here. So the Savvy is a way to do that. So check it out. And we might, last thing, for our early subscribers in the paid tier, in the starter, in the, for our early subscribers in the starter position, there might be a little special something for you. I'll just, I'll leave it there. It might not because we haven't decided, but either way, I'll just leave it there.
Way to almost kind of promise a thing. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's floating it, but not being willing to commit to anything.
That, you know what? It's unscripted.
Hey, there you go. See? So it's on brand. It's perfect.
It's on brand.
Perfect.
Yep.
Hey, one last question before I read us out, Jeff. Is it ironic or foreboding that I'm wearing an Enron shirt?
I don't know, but I'll ask the same question about my Mets shirt.
Touche. Touche. Wow. Well done. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening here with us. And as always, we love to give our answers to these hard investing questions. And with the community we're trying to build, we might be giving even more of those answers to more of you. But just remember, they're our answers. They're not advice. It's still up to you to make your own decisions and to find your own answers out there. And you know what? In our shared community, you can do it. We believe in you. All right, Jeff. We'll see you next time.
See you
on
next time.
Patreon.